We are about 20 minutes west of Richmond, although that distance is getting shorter every year. My career as a cattle farmer had a little bit unconventional start, and I didn't have any intent to take over a cattle herd. But when my father suddenly passed away, it took us kind of by surprise. The first year managing the herd, I would say I was playing defense most of the time. I had very little infrastructure to work with. There were almost no division fences, and cattle were basically like wild animals. And, I said, look, either I've got to learn a better system or I've got to liquidate. Stress level was too high. I'd come out of construction. I didn't need to go back into something that was stressful. And I just started asking questions. So that's where it began.
This area right here, Little Wacomica, is a very good growing area for oysters. We have a lot of demand from Chesapeake Bay oysters, so we grow them year-round. When we bring them in, they come in for two things. One for a half-shell box market, raw bar, and the other one's for a shuck market. For half-shell, we'll wash them, clean them, grade them, box them, count them, and then ship them out. All this happens that day. For the shuck product, we're also bringing them in also. Same thing, put them in cooler. These guys shuck them. Chesapeake Bay was plentiful in oysters. About the 80s, we started seeing a lot of deaths. We had Dermo and MSX come in. Oysters started dying. It was really difficult to grow oysters. A lot of oyster grounds stayed dormant. But in the meantime, we have brought oysters back in the bay. The aquaculture has been a big part of that.
I'm a hay farmer, and I bought this farm to make hay on for this nice bottomland that we had. When we first purchased the property, the stream was very polluted and had, steep caving banks. Cows were in the stream. It looked pretty gross. I had approached Corey Williams from the NRCS about, what do we do about this?
Generally, just fencing the cattle out of the streams will do 75 to 90% of the good of helping to improve the water quality. The stream banks can heal over with grass, and the roots of that grass can help hold the banks in place, so you get some trees and shrubs growing up to help further stabilize it. There are some sites where we have to come back later and do some further stabilization practices to help stabilize those banks. But those practices, they're very costly, and so fortunately there is financial assistance, both state and federal, to help landowners offset the cost of implementing the needed conservation practices to get cattle out of streams and other livestock as well.
We are surrounded by streams, which made it attractive to the Soil and Water District to get us out of the streams, and the damage there was obvious. We did a stream exclusion. They covered 75% of the cost, and they suggested rotational grazing to help manage the pastures and maintain a better stand of grass.
So Ronnie divided those big pastures into small paddocks, allowing the foragers to rest and regrow. It greatly invigorates the production of the forages. It builds the health of the soil. It's good for the overall system. These changes didn't come easy. They're not free. So it costs money to install the cross fencing, watering system that facilitates this entire process and this overall conservation system. And that's where the financial assistance through the programs come in.
We had over 5 miles of fence to go in to do the boundaries and the division fences, over a mile of water line, and they paid 75% of that install cost.
In the beginning, Ronnie started with just 3 large pastures, and over the 10 years as he subdivided, now he's got over 24.
First of all, I found the cattle now associated me with getting new grass. So slowly over time, they would walk by me to come through a gate instead of running away. The pastures responded almost immediately. The grass is having time to rest and restore root systems. And it was easy to see at the end of the first year, not only could I manage my cattle, but they had something to go to graze. So I became a believer right off the bat. My weaning weights are probably 200 pounds a calf heavier than they were when I started.
You can just throw an oyster shell overboard and it will grow additional oysters. That is what we call natural strike. That is in areas that have oysters and have conditions available to grow oysters naturally. A lot of our areas do not have that capability, so we add what we call spat-on shell. Spat are oyster larvae. They're just baby oysters.
Shells right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Shells are the best thing for oysters to naturally strike on. They're the best substrate to strike on. So our idea was to put spat on shell, which we put larvae in these tanks, and then we plant them on bottom and dredge them up traditionally. So it was an idea to jumpstart the oyster industry, but to get these oysters overboard that were more disease resistant and took less time to grow.
So the spat on shell process, this all starts with larvae produced in a hatchery. Producers like Rich are helping us by producing larvae for this program. Larvae need a place to settle, and the shucking houses are the ones that have the shell. These tanks that you see are full of clean oyster shell, and so the larvae will settle on the oyster shell and grow naturally, and they can be planted directly on the bottom.
So doing this process is very expensive. Most waterman producers do not have the capacity to do spat on shell. So what we've done is we've partnered with VIMS, which is the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences, and VMRC, which is the Virginia Marine Resource Commission. It's a lot of words. And that's where this funding is coming from. It's a partnership. We've been partnering since at least 2012.
So we help producers to access shell, where to access larvae, and where they want to plant it.
It is invaluable to our watermen. This program does so much for them that normally would otherwise not be available to them.
So financial assistance alone does not get conservation on the ground. It's the technical assistance that goes along with that financial assistance.
A lot of our conservation work is focused on restoring and protecting brook trout. And so our role here is to provide technical assistance and funding where needed. So these type of riparian corridor restoration projects where we're doing riparian buffers, streamside exclusion fencing, in-stream habitat enhancement are very complex, take a lot of partners.
It's all engineered out, grades, dimensions, everything. It's quite a process. A lot of knowledge goes into it.
And so by restoring the in-stream habitat and creating a riparian canopy cover by planting streamside trees, we see within 2-3 years' time, water temperatures drop during those summertime critical periods for trout.
When you look at the different agencies and what they can provide, they have the farms all across the state that they've worked with, and they're willing to share that. They will come to your farm, and these guys come out and get dirty, and they've got a spade, they're digging in the ground looking for soil conditions, and it's just, I don't know of any industry that has a network quite like that.
Using these practices like prescribed grazing and diverse forages does improve livestock performance, but it also has a lot of benefits underground for soil health. So with better soil health, we see better soil structure, more water infiltration and nutrient cycling. We have more soil life, more biology in the soil. That's a good sign.
JB, look at this.
It's wonderful to see the transition that Ronnie has made here. There's a lot of development pressure here around this farm, just like in a lot of areas in Virginia. And one way to keep these farms productive and profitable so they can sustain production into the future is for farmers to adopt practices just like Ronnie has here.
So we had a lot of this old oyster ground that was needed to be replenished, restocked, reworked, and this program at NRCS has really helped us over time. We have at a point now where we have oysters that we can harvest year-round from this.
So when we're looking through the spat on shell that's been overboard, you can see it's provided habitat because you can see fish and fish eggs inside some of the shells. You've got blue crab. That's a very important natural resource for the Chesapeake Bay. So oyster aquaculture and what we're doing here with spat on shell is really important because it's revitalizing the bottom. They're providing habitat. They're filtering the water, providing water quality.
The extra benefit is that you can harvest these oysters, so it's really a win-win situation.
Conservation is a partnership effort. No single person or single organization can get conservation done by themselves. You need all sorts of partners, and of course the landowner himself, he's also a partner. He's letting us put the conservation practice in on his property to benefit him as well as the people downstream.
I'm building numbers at this time. I'm increasing my herd size because I see I can support it. But without that initial outlay, I couldn't have done it. Now at this point, I still rely on all the agencies. All of them have contributed to what I'm doing today.
Doing something like this, it benefits you individually, and it makes your property nicer and more usable, more enjoyable. But also you feel just like a good citizen. You're doing something that benefits the greater watershed, the greater community, and it's got a snowball effect.
I have a lot of hope in the oyster industry now. We have a very good resource that's living, unlike it did 30 years ago or better, and the market is good, and we have good relationships with the MRC, VIMS, and the NGOs, NRCS. I cannot ask for a better bunch and a better relationship than I have right now. We work together, and this is the product of that.